Hi, it's Phoenician Sailor here on a Friday night. It's March 23rd as I'm recording this, doing some preparation for tomorrow, which, for those of you who do not know, tomorrow, March 24th, is the date of probably by the time this gets out, it will have already passed, March for Our Lives, which is the protest that was organized by the Parkland shooting students, and it's taken on a life of its own. It's become huge. There are protests being held in almost 1,000 cities across the U.S. The biggest one, or presumably the biggest one, is going to be the one in Washington, D.C., which is the one I'm going to because it's where I live. I'll be going with my partner. I plan to vlog if I can. I don't know if I'm going to be able to. I'm gonna try and bring camera stuff and see what they're pretty strict on what they're allowing, because obviously a protest for gun control of this size would be a good target for, who knows. So they're pretty strict on, almost draconian on what they're going to allow you to bring onto the mall. So hopefully they'll let me bring my camera stuff, and who knows, maybe I'll be able to intersperse some of that footage with what you're seeing here right now.
6 minutes and 20 seconds with an AR-15, and my friend Carmen would never complain to me about piano practice. Aaron Feist would never call Kira Miss Sunshine. Alex Schachter would never walk into school with his brother Ryan. Scott Beagle would never joke around with Cameron at camp. Helen Ramsey would never hang out after school with Max. Gina Montalto would never wave to her friend Liam at lunch. Joaquin Oliver would never play basketball with Sam or Dylan. Elena Petty would never. Carol Lugren would never. Chris Hickson would never. Luke Hoyer would never. Marquine Duque Aguiano would never. Peter Wang would never. Alyssa Al-Hadaf would never. Jamie Guttenberg would never. Meadow Pollock would never.
This is not an ASMR video, obviously. This is more like a harsh truths video. People get very upset when I express political views and say, shut up and do ASMR. But I've never actually said that I was an ASMR channel. I didn't actually start as an ASMR channel. I do a lot of ASMR. The vast majority of the videos that I do are ASMR, but a percentage of them are not. And I don't see the need to separate those channels. If you see a video you don't want to see, it's not like I flood anybody's feed with videos. I don't put out content all that often. So if you see a video that you don't think you're gonna like, don't click it. I mean, at this point, really, if you're a harsh anti-reform, Second Amendment, militant, NRA-loving, card-carrying member, and you're still subscribe to me or watching my videos, I thanks. I mean, I actually guess it means that you're fairly open-minded, because I tend to talk crap about those things. But I would like to explain sort of the nuanced approach of how I feel about gun control, because it's not black and white. It's not just I think nobody should be allowed to have guns, or that I think all high-powered rifles should be illegal. That's actually not. That's not precisely how I feel. So yeah, let's talk about that a little bit. And by the way, I'm going to show this because I've been talking about it a bit. I finished reading this some time ago. I don't know if you can see, but like there's note cards on almost every page, filled with scribblings that I need to go through and sort of get my thoughts together on before I actually do a video based on that book, which I had thought I would be doing relatively quickly after getting the book, but it took forever to read, even though it's only like 300 pages, because I kept getting sidetracked. And honestly, a lot of the information in that book is already really outdated. So many of the characters in that book are now out of the picture. What good is it to sort of talk a bunch of crap about Steve Bannon now, although that guy is a right bastard. So anyway, gun control. First thing, get out of the way, I am a gun owner. I own multiple guns, handguns and a shotgun. They're relatively small, a couple of them here. This is a 5-shot Smith & Wesson revolver. And I do keep these locked up and locked away. And this is a 9mm shield. Very, very sort of, they're both basic guns, and the shotgun I have is also very basic. They are absolutely for self-defense and home defense. And I've had this gun, since I was 19 or 20, and I don't want to incriminate myself. Whenever it was legal for me to buy it in Florida, that was when I bought it. So I've been a gun owner for a long time, and I don't think that there's anything wrong with owning guns, and I don't think that there's anything wrong with sort of enjoying the power and the precision and accuracy, just like you would like maybe with archery or something similar. Going to a range and shooting guns at a range. I think that's there's something to that goes beyond just a gun's ability to kill. It is fun.
Either you can join us or be on the side of history who prioritize their guns over the lives of others.
I don't think my desire to have fun or enjoy myself should trump the ability for others to stay alive. And there's so many arguments going on about this, and we're all trying to do the same thing. We're all trying, like, no matter what side of the fence you're on, unless you are really evil and you've been bought off by the NRA, and when I say been bought off by the NRA, I mean John McCain, $7.7 million. Trump, $30 million. North Carolina, Richard Burr, $7 million. Roy Blunt, he's out of the picture, but $4.5 million. North Carolina, Tom Tillis, $4.4 million. Colorado, Cory Gardner, $3.8 million. Marco Rubio in Florida, $3.3 million. Rob Portman, 3 million. Todd Young, 2.9. This list goes on and on. These are people who have received millions of dollars from the NRA over the course of their political careers. And that cannot be discounted. If there's anyone when I speak to people who have very different opinions about gun control than I do, I don't think for a moment, I think that what they're saying is, yeah, I don't want kids to die. Of course I don't want kids to die. I don't want innocent people to die. I just think that the way to get that done better and faster and more effectively is different than the way that you think is the best or the quickest path to getting that done. So if you have a different viewpoint on how to accomplish the same goal, this is great. These are debates that we should have and we should always be having. Yeah, I think I'm right. Of course I think I'm right. If I didn't think that I was right, then I would not, then I would think something else, right? So, and I feel like my beliefs are backed up by statistical data, but people interpret statistical data in lots of different ways. And much like Chris Hedges, the author Chris Hedges, said, one of the most dangerous things about the era that we live in is that you can choose to believe almost anything you want, and you can find the data to back it up, because there are so many sources and so much obfuscation between consumption and production and creation, and that you basically, your implicit or explicit bias is going to come into play, and you'll just disregard things that that don't agree with your argument, and you'll give extra credence to those things that do. I'm guilty of this. I took the Harvard implicit bias test for race about a year and a half ago, and I scored with a slight bias towards white people. I mean, that sounds like that's a horrible thing to admit, I guess. I was shocked by it. I did not think that I would get that result. And I think part of that test, by the way, if you've never taken the Harvard implicit bias test, you should. It will reveal things about yourself, and nobody's perfect, and we can all work on ourselves and work on becoming better people. And you don't do that by just sort of saying, no, I'm fine the way I am, I don't want to change. You do that by looking inside and trying to find the things about you that you are probably not even aware of, that you have these biases. This is a lot of what goes into white privilege is people who just they're so used to things happening a certain way that they don't even see it as privilege anymore. And that's the reality of the world that we live in. But I think if you are, and of course I'm saying this, because it's me, right? So I want to think that I'm a good person. If you are constantly trying to improve yourself and improve the lives of those around you or those communities around you, whether it's through charity work or direct work or lobbying for causes that you believe are just and right, or even just helping people in your community or family. I mean, any of those things. Then if you're working towards those ends, if you're working towards making the world a better place, there are an infinite number of ways you can do it, or a near infinite number of ways you can do it, and there's plenty of room for everybody to help in all these different ways. So I am not being prescriptive about, well, here's what needs to be done, but I mean, just painting myself in a corner there, because I actually am being prescriptive, because I do have a strong opinion when it comes to gun control about what we should do. And just bluntly stated, I believe that what we should do is immediately ban all high-powered rifles and assault rifles. Anything that allows obviously bump stocks should have been banned a long time ago. Now Trump he's such an opportunist. He tweeted today that basically blaming Obama for the existence of bump stocks. Bump stocks technically are not illegal, and he's now saying that he's going to ban bump stocks the day before the March for Our Lives. And if that's not sort of opportunism at its finest, I don't know what is. So my belief is that we should ban automatic weapons and semi-automatic high-powered rifles immediately. There are lots of people who say things like, let's see, there are a lot of arguments against this. One that I hear quite a bit is basically if someone wants a gun bad enough, they're going to get it. It doesn't matter if it's legal or illegal. The facile version of that is if you outlaw guns, only outlaws will have guns. That's a tautology. There's no getting around that. There's an obstacle, I think, and it is a deeply ingrained obstacle in all of us that we need to all get over, living our lives and judging what is the right thing to do and what is the wrong thing to do based off of fear. And I genuinely feel like if your thought process is, I do not want to give up my guns because I am afraid that somebody's going to break in my house or accost me on the side of the street and they're going to have a gun and they're going to shoot me and then I will be dead. If that is your thought process, then you're living your life based on fear and you're making choices based on fear, and it's selfish fear. If it comes down to laying down one's life so that thousands will be saved as a result of these obstacles that would be placed in their way that will prevent them from getting guns, then while I'm certainly not going to be happy about it, I feel like I would do it. In a lot of these cases, in a lot of these mass shootings, in almost all cases of domestic violence deaths, generally between partners, it has been statistically shown that had a gun not been readily available at the moment, or if there had been a waiting period of 3 to 5 days or a background check or what have you, it would have prevented that individual from getting a gun. And even if they had gotten a gun, the seeing red phase of their anger would have already expired. They would have thought better about what they were going to do, and the killing would not have taken place. Again, I'm not saying that would have happened for all of them, just for some of them. And the question, I guess, is how many is enough? And for me, one is enough. And the more the better, but one is enough. And there's no arguing that fact. People will talk about, I actually heard people saying things about the gun ban in Australia and how there was a total gun ban in Australia, but there were still deaths in the years following the gun ban from cars and knives and even from guns in a couple of cases. But the number of deaths went down precipitously. That is not, it is not an argument against gun control to say it doesn't work 100% of the time. It only works 70% of the time, because even if it only works 1% of the time, we should still do it. And when we start to talk about like sort of the political side of this and the things that are being bandied about, the ideas that are being bandied about, Obama, first of all, okay, I am an anarcho-syndicalist at heart, living in a capitalist society, trying to reconcile those two halves of myself. I am not, and that is part of the sort of constant struggle that I have between being against any kind of authoritarianism, and I'm including capitalism in that because one is a foregone conclusion of the other, and just wanting to do things that are going to work for now. And I don't think it's hypocritical to say, look, we can do this and we can save lives today, right? And we can save lives over the next year. It doesn't mean we stop. It doesn't mean we do this and we just stop, right? We are still looking for these other solutions. We definitely want to address mental health. There's a huge mental health problem in this country. I mean, the fact that most of these, well, almost all of these school shootings have been, and mass shootings in movie theaters, and they've all been committed by young white men. Why? There's a lot of possible answers to that. One of them is the availability of the weapons to this group of people. One of them is the feeling of entitlement that white males have, and the frustration that comes out of not realizing one's full potential and being frustrated by the idea that's sort of put forth of, if you're a white male, you should be successful and whatever, and if you're not, there's this sort of frustration. I'm not saying this is an excuse, because this is obviously not an excuse, and every one of these people are terrorists. They're domestic terrorists. Just you don't see them labeled as domestic terrorists, but that's just because they're white, right? But I do think that regardless of, even if the reason is like petulant and silly, we still need to find out the reason so we can try and stop it. We can condemn the reason all we want, right? And condemn the people all we want. But this is a multi-pronged sort of attack. We shouldn't just do one thing, hope it takes care of everything. We should be attacking this as many ways as we possibly can. So obviously bump stocks gone, right? There should be a background check on anybody buying a gun. You should not be able to buy a gun at a gun show without a background check. Trump likes to say that Obama was not strong on guns, and I mean, he wasn't. I mean, he didn't do very much, but he did institute some law. Like, he instituted a law that said that Social Security recipients with mental health issues, they had to report if they bought a gun, they had to be reported to the FBI. Trump rescinded that last year. So that's gone, right? He might bring it back now because he bends like a reed in the wind, depending on, he does this, sees which way the wind's blowing, and he quickly tries to maneuver himself as the champion of that particular cause, even though I feel like he gets nothing done and is the worst president in the history of the United States, and a horrible model of leadership and a horrible example, and he is driving the global view of America straight into the shitter. But this is not a video about what a horrible person Trump is. So there's another argument. There'll be a video about it. That's coming in the future. There's another argument that, if we outlaw guns, what we're going to do is start a black market for guns, a massive, probably South American based cartel of guns that will flow into the United States, unless, of course, Trump builds his wall. Wall will stop anything. I say a lot of negative things about Trump because I just think that he fundamentally doesn't understand what it means to be a good leader, and to lead by example. I think he was raised, obviously, with a silver spoon in his mouth. He was raised in the real estate industry, which is, by its nature, I want to say a vacuum of ethics. So he has a certain outlook on the world where basically he wants to get things done by bullying people until he gets what he wants, or projecting this image that he thinks is an image of strength, when really it's evidence of his fragility. You could count the number of times he's apologized on one hand, and still have enough fingers left to do that.
All right, so I'm here in a porta potty at the march. It's one of the quietest places I could find. It's sort of like a confessional booth from a reality TV show. But, it's been crazy. It's been totally packed all the way from Pennsylvania, from all the way from 7th to 16th. Really hard to move around in, but it's been really energizing to see the variety of people, the diversity of people, the signs that have been held up, how much people have been wanting to help other people and offering people things like water and bandages, and they have like mom stations and a lot of stuff that's free, which is pretty cool to see. But anyway, yeah, having a good time. It's important. I think the turnout has been impressive. Whatever you hear, I'm sure the media is not going to downplay this, but I couldn't possibly be able to calculate how many people are here. I'm a good mile away from the Capitol, and it's still just shoulder to shoulder, standing room only. So pretty neat.
So a black market for guns, we would be creating, if we enact strict gun control measures, we will create a black market for guns. Probably true. Same thing with drugs, right? What does that mean? I guess the question there is the potential for this black market for guns. Is that enough? Is that enough of a reason for us to say, no, we're not going to do it, because then we're going to start this black market for guns? And I don't think it is. As much as I hate the war on drugs in particular, even the term, the war on drugs, because it's ridiculous. It's not a war. It can't be won. Knowing your enemy is really important. And if we can't even say that these type of weapons are the enemy, then we have no recourse at all. We can presuppose all we want. The bottom line is, do we think that we're going to save more lives doing that than by not doing it? And I still think the clear answer there is yes. If we enact a gun ban and we see like a massive cartel selling guns, and it turns out that guns are as prevalent as they ever were before the gun ban, then we reevaluate. But I am hoping, and my belief is that one way in which they will get better is that fewer children at schools will be shot by other children. I'm not, there will probably be more shootings of gun runners and law enforcement officials and all kinds of other collateral damage that will result as this new industry possibly, crops up. We have to be bold. We have to make bold choices. We have to be willing to sacrifice. We have to be willing to sacrifice tax money to do the research on the mental health and to give people the help that they need so that they don't get into this situation. And I don't just mean privileged white kids who may turn into mass shooters. I also mean children in poverty, any group that is basically living in a situation that either forces them to endanger their lives to survive or to endanger the lives of others to survive. We have to be willing to sacrifice to do that, and we should be. It goes without saying, like our personal sort of selfish need for wanting a gun, we need to be able to sacrifice that. That's we need to be brave. We should be leading by example. one of the casualties of the Trump administration has been people don't seem to care about that as much anymore. People seem to say, well, if you're going to do it this way, then that legitimizes me doing it this way. If you're going to be underhanded, then I'm going to be underhanded. If you are able, and as a country, the United States is able, and if you are able as an individual, and some people are and some people aren't, to maintain a standard and a code of ethics, it should not be at all affected by the actions of others. You don't change things by succumbing to the path of least resistance, because then the path of least resistance becomes also the most trodden path. I do feel like whenever I get into an argument online about this, which I've gotten into way too many, and it's a waste of time for both me and for the other person, because nobody's opinions ever get changed. I just think we need to sort of, forgive the word, assault this from all sides. And we do need to increase mental health funding for schools. We need to do that. Armed guards at schools. I mean, we've seen, mixed results on that front, but again, this is just me personally. I'm not against that. If we have the funding to have armed guards at schools, probably not a bad idea. Might be a bad idea. Is it worth trying? In my opinion, yes. Armed teachers, horrible idea. Horrible idea. Teachers are paid so little, and the job they do is so important. And for us to have the gall to basically say, and you also have to protect the children and learn how to protect them from active shooters, I can't see that as anything but a slap in the face, because we have implicit biases. What's going to end up happening is teachers will kill students. That will happen. Metal detectors, maybe. There's a bit of a hypocrisy to that argument, because the same argument that says, well, if guns are illegal, then, if guns are outlawed, then only outlaws will have guns. If you can subvert the system to get a gun, if a gun is illegal, you can subvert a metal detector, but throw everything at the wall. See what sticks. See what works. If you save, like I said, I think if you save one child's life, it's worth it. So that is my, in a nutshell, sort of as succinctly as I can put it, and I know that it was fairly rambly anyway, my opinion on the gun, not that anybody cares or asked for it, but this is what I do. My opinion on the gun control issue. The NRA is a business. It is a capitalist business. It happens to deal in one of the most dangerous, create one of the most dangerous commodities, or not commodities, items on the market. It benefits from the sale of as many of those as it can possibly get. It doesn't want any sort of regulation on the obtaining of guns, and that can be seen just by the amount of money that lobbyists have paid and accepted on both sides of the aisle. I mean, Democrat and Republican. Let's just try and get to let's keep the goal in mind, and let's just try and get there, and let's work out what we need to work out in order to get us all on the same page. We can definitely do it, even in spite of the current administration. Trump is not going to be in office forever. Even with Trump in office, if there is an overwhelming mandate to change, if the midterm elections are the upset that they kind of seem to be going, the direction they seem to be going in, we can affect real change, and we'll never know it. We'll never have a tally card that says, look, you saved these lives, unless you maybe look at the number of deaths in a year, and we see that number dip dramatically, that would be great. But I mean, we'll never know for sure, right? Especially if we're doing a scattershot technique, and we're going to try everything, and everybody's going to say that their particular thing is what caused the drop. But like I said, I think if we can save even one child's life, it is worth it. And I think that you listening to me right now, you probably think the same thing too. You may just have a different idea of how best to get there. We just need to sort of throw all our as many biases as we can out the window and try to address the real issue and try and actually curb the deaths as much as possible, whatever that takes. So I'm eager to talk about this stuff in the comments. I'm eager to hear opinions on both sides. Let's try to keep it civil, and I'm eager to hear what you all have to say. So it's now the evening of March 24th. Got back from the rally a little while ago and promptly took a nap. I'm still putting this video together. I'm using bits. I could have taken whatever I wanted. There were people there with huge camera setups that were just walking in. It was nowhere near as difficult as they made it sound on the organization's page to get equipment in. So I could have taken whatever I wanted, but I didn't. I just took my GH5, so the footage that you'll be seeing is just from that camera. But I just wanted to say it was an incredible experience, and I've been to a lot of rallies, a lot of protests. The energy and the hope that I got from that one, the hope. I can be a pretty negative, sarcastic, and sort of gloomy person. But the feeling of hope that I got for for the next generation, for our future, for the future of our youth, I mean, nobody. I'm over 40. Nobody cares what I think, and nobody should really care what I think, unless I get elected into office, which will never happen, even if I tried. But I don't plan to try. But some of these kids, everyone who spoke at this rally was a minor, and they were all inspiring and awe-inspiring, and I was moved to tears many times, and it was fabulous. It was really, really great to see, and I hope it doesn't wither on the vine, and I hope the momentum keeps going. And I, like I said, it gave me a sense of hope about the future that I had been sort of, I guess, predictably losing as I got older. Which try not to lose that sense of hope. Okay.